Hey guys, here at osmvtxreviews.com. You're watching our video review of the Lepan TC970 Android 2.2 Froyo-based Android tablet. What makes this tablet really unique is the fact that it's heavily commercialized, so you can purchase it at basically any electronics store, and secondly, it's also very inexpensive, coming in at only $200, and it has a 9.7-inch capacitive multi-touch enabled 720p HD display. And that's kind of unique because in most Android tablets have a 16:9 aspect ratio, and for example, most 10.1-inch Android tablets, and those are more suited for watching videos rather than something like this, which is a more boxy shape than rectangular, and so it actually has the same aspect ratio as you'll find on an Apple iPad or an HP touchpad. So it's more suited for web browsing, for playing applications, as well as for e-reading, which are, again, more mainstream applications than just watching videos. Otherwise, Lepan tablet PC is a pretty generic device in terms of specs. It has a 1 GHz ARM Cortex processor, 512 megabytes of RAM, 2 gigabytes of ROM, upgradable via a micro SD card slot. There's also a GPS module built in, along with a 2.0 megapixel webcam that's also able to shoot actually 720p HD video, which is actually pretty impressive. There's Bluetooth 2.1, also Wi-Fi BGN, and there's stereo speakers, an accelerometer, as well as a compass, and an ambient light sensor built on in. That's pretty much it. The other interesting thing about this tablet is it actually has a 30-pin dock connector to charge the device. This is actually the exact same charger you'll find on an older Apple iPhone, or perhaps an iPod Touch, or even an older iPad. And this is kind of interesting because I always thought that Apple had a copyright aspect on that type of charger, and so to see Lepan, which is another third-party electronics manufacturer, actually use the same charger is a little bit shady, to be honest. Now, Lepan is actually a manufacturer we haven't heard a lot of here in the United States, and the TC970 is actually the first device we've actually heard from the manufacturer, and so it's pretty important for the company to actually have a good start with this product, and I think that for the most part, the Lepan TC970 is a successful Android tablet. So in the box, we have a quick start guide. The tablet itself, which is very reflective, is a huge fingerprint magnet, is the first thing that you'll notice, and unfortunately that means it gets smudges and some scratches on the device like crazy, so it's going to be good to have a cleaning cloth ready when you're using the tablet. Also inside the package is the aforementioned 30-pin dock connector, the same one you'll find on your iPod iOS device, as well as a Lepan branded lanyard cord and a square-like traveling AC adapter. So taking a closer look at the tablet itself, again, it's extremely reflective, but otherwise it's a very well-constructed device. It's made out of glass on the front, and the sides of the device are embezzled with chrome-like metal, and the same thing can be said about the back, which is actually also made out of metal, and even though it means that it can scratch a little bit more easier and attracts a little bit more smudges than usual, it does have a very positive and premium feel in the hand, which seems to contradict the fact that it only comes in at a very inexpensive price tag of $200. So on the back here, you can see the stereo speakers, which are very loud. The top houses the reset hole, along with the power on and off switch, which is extremely small and recessed. This is actually one of the larger downsides to actually purchasing this tablet because the power on and off switch is so hard to press. Also here is a hold switch, a volume rocker, as long as a micro SD card slot hidden behind a cover. There's also a 30-pin dock connector for charging and syncing the device with a PC, a microphone, and a 3.5mm headphone jack. And that's pretty much it as far as design is considered. There's also a lanyard strap on the right-hand side of the tablet itself. There's nothing on the bottom, and that's basically it. Like we said, the chrome sides on the tablet definitely add to the flair and design aspect, and we definitely liked it as a overall design aspect from Lepan. The powering the device up, you notice that the screen is extremely vibrant, and it's easy to read thanks to the fact that it has a 720p or WVGA resolution on it. And you can also see that above the screen we have the aforementioned 2.0 megapixel webcam for self-chatting applications like Skype or WeChat. And along the side here, because this is an Android 2.2 based tablet, instead of having all these controls on screen, they're actually physical controls that take you back, the search, the home, and the menu buttons. And those work pretty well for the main part. The main thing you'll notice about the screen is also the fact that it has a 178-degree viewing angle. This is very impressive, so when you're actually viewing the tablet or playing games with it using the accelerometer, even as you're turning the tablet into multiple orientations, you'll still see that the screen does a nice job of displaying the same colors and resolutions that you might typically see from a more limited degree of view. And so this allows you to actually see the tablet even if you're holding it from different positions, which is very good from the screen's perspective. Now, one aspect that we were kind of felt that Lepan didn't do a very nice job of is actually the backlit functionality on the actual controls and buttons. And this is because, as you can see here, whenever you press a button, they do light up for a few seconds. Now, this is good because in darker environments, you'll be able to see it. But unfortunately, we don't understand why Lepan doesn't just make these buttons light up all at once. Instead, after you press a button, it's going to light up, which is kind of kind of contradicting with what you might actually think, because again, if you're completely in the dark, you can't see any of these buttons. You can only see these buttons after you press them, and it kind of defeats the purpose of having the light there in the first place. Otherwise, again, with Android 2.2, it's a pretty early build of Froyo, and the nice thing about the Lapan tablet is it's a very generic build of the operating system. There's not a lot of bloatware on here, so basically you have just the traditional access to the Google navigational services and the Gmail. You have the browser, the calendar, the camera, Google Maps, of course, and Gmail, and that's basically it. There aren't any extra games or bloatware that a manufacturer installed onto the device, which means that you can actually use the memory to install the apps that you want rather than the apps that the manufacturer wants, which is certainly nice to see. Now, as a 1 GHz ARM Cortex processor, one of the main concerns we had for this tablet was the fact that it's going to be kind of sluggish and slow and unresponsive. Now, luckily, through our testing, we found the device was actually pretty fast and responsive, and so as a result, we were never really disappointed with the performance aspect. Sure, there's going to be a little bit more stuttering than you expected from modern-day tablets, especially if you're browsing very flash-heavy sites, but overall, we found that it was a pretty good tablet for overall games like WeChat, some basic navigational functionalities, and using the gallery. As long as you aren't using too many 3D intensive applications and games, then I think you'll be fine with the tablet. Another aspect of where the Lapan tablet excels at is battery life. Coming in at over 6 hours, the battery just lasts a very long period of time, which is certainly pretty impressive. And standby mode also lasts around 2 weeks straight, which is also very good. Now, we found that when we turned Wi-Fi on and continuously used heavy flash-enabled sites and we're browsing the web, the battery life kind of drained a little bit faster and was only able to last us through around 5 hours, but still it's a pretty impressive figure. Now, turning on the Wi-Fi, you can see the Wi-Fi reception is also a pretty strong suit. We're going to connect to our Wi-Fi network here and get going to show you the web browsing experience, which is, for the most part, pretty impressive. Some other aspects to take note of is the fact, again, that the webcam here actually has a 720p HD video resolution, which is something that not a lot of tablets, when this device was first released, actually had. And that's because back in those days, we saw a lot of webcams on Android tablets being 1.3 megapixels or even VGA resolution. So having the 720p resolution is pretty impressive. Now, for some weird reason, even though the device does have a 2 GB RAM installed, you have to install a separate SD card before you can actually use the camera application, which is another counterintuitive aspect. But again, you can see here we can shoot up to 720p HD resolution videos, which are very cool, and they are very sharp and easy to read as well. So overall, the camera does a really nice job, and we were pretty impressed with the performance aspect on that. Now, the device also has the ability to, of course, display live wallpapers. You can select from those through the settings, and they have a nice host for you to select from. As far as touchscreen sensitivity goes, the Lapan tablet does a pretty nice job. Most things are pretty sensitive and easy to press, and the multi-touch functionality works pretty nicely in the maps and the web browsing experience, and so it definitely allows you to use the device more easily rather than difficultly. And for the most part, Gmail applications and everything loads pretty well. Now, but a thing to be noted of is, of course, this device is Android 2.2, so essentially it's just a smartphone operating system being stretched onto a larger screen. And you'll see that on a lot of different applications. It essentially looks very stretched, and you can see how all the icons are extremely large. And again, a reason for that is because it's essentially a smartphone, but with a larger display on this particular tablet. And so it's a good tablet, I think, for elderly people or even for kids, because, the icons are very large, and you won't have to squint at the tablet to read the smaller icons and the smaller text. Taking a look at the web browsing experience, for example, if we go to something like, just go to Google right now, and we'll see if that works. And it's just a traditional Android keyboard, which actually works pretty well for the most part. Let's just click on that and see how fast it loads. Now, over Wi-Fi, it is pretty speedy as far as the reception goes, and hopefully it's going to load here. You can see that the accelerometer also works pretty fast, and you can switch back and forth between the 4 axes of the accelerometer, and all 4 are enabled. So unlike some devices, it doesn't have only 3 axes, but actually all 4 axes, which is pretty impressive. And you can also see here that multi-touch is also a pretty smooth experience overall, and so it's definitely easy to use. Now, another impressive aspect or reason why you might purchase a Lapan versus any other tablet out there is the fact that it supports multiple languages right out of the gate. Seeing that Lapan is actually a Japanese manufacturer, you actually have a host of different language settings in the box that you might not typically find from a mainstream manufacturer. Now, for example, if you go into the language and keyboard, you'll be able to see that you have not just Spanish and and French or just English. You actually have all of these different settings from Dutch to English to even Chinese on here, and there's also Korean. So it's a lot more settings you might traditionally find from an Android-based tablet of this caliber and price range. So it's a great gift as well if you have any relatives living in other nations and other countries and you're worried about purchasing something that might not support their language. Well, most likely it's also going to be available here. Otherwise, the device is a pretty generic tablet, nothing really to write home about. The maps works pretty well. As far as customer support is considered, Lepan didn't provide too many updates after the device was released, so unfortunately it remains stuck at Android 2.2. However, one aspect where Lepan did upgrade is the Android Marketplace to the Play Store application. This allows you to actually access most of the up-to-date applications, movies, games, and reading content for you to use the device. And again, you can see how when we're holding the device in this portrait-style view, it really just has the same orientation and its same aspect ratio on the screen as that of an Apple iPad or HP touchpad, so it's pretty comfortable for reading text, and you can also see how sharp the display is, which is again very impressive, and the same thing with the viewing angle that we talked about. So again, it's a very impressive display if you're going to be again browsing the web or viewing content or watching videos. Again, reading ebooks is another area where the device will excel at. Some other things to take note of, we also liked how some of the controls on the side of the device dubs as smart keys if you use it for extended periods of time. For example, pressing the search button once will bring up the search keyboard. However, if you press on the search button for extended periods of time, it's going to take up the voice search command function. For example, Lepan tablet. And we found that for the most part, the search functionality worked pretty well, and there wasn't any really huge issues we had. And let's try that again, that didn't search well. Lepan tablet PC. And there we go, Lepan tablet PC is searched. And again, it basically recognizes your voice in a pretty nice degree when we were testing it, so there shouldn't be any issues with recognition as far as that aspect goes. So overall, the Lepan tablet is a pretty compelling device to get, especially again if you're looking for something that's inexpensive, has this very unique aspect ratio we haven't really seen in any other tablet PC running Android OS, because unlike the resolution of 16:9, we have a more traditionalized, a more boxy form factor like that of the Apple iPad, and also the fact that it has larger icons coupled with more language supports is also another plus. Now, the specs aren't anything too impressive, and the device is actually quite hefty as well, weighing in at 1.6 pounds, but still it has a very solid construction quality, and so it does feel more premium than the price would suggest. So overall, pretty good tablet PC. If you want to learn more about the Lepan TC970, please do a full review here at osandbtxreviews.com. This has been our video first look.